Hey everybody, are you ready to sell to your prospects without sounding pushy or salesy? Or sometimes do you struggle on finding what to say or how to follow up with your prospects after you've already done your first pitch or first introduction of your service or company? If these are your struggles, let's stay tuned. I'm going to talk about how to create a non-pushy sales conversation so that you can feel a lot more confident when you're talking to those big prospects, and you can easily take them through different stages of sales engagement so that you are not feeling pushy and your prospects are feeling comfortable speaking with you, and you create a very harmonious sales relationship with your big prospects and eventually closing the sales. Hi everyone, Melinda here, founder of Women Making Big Sales. If you still don't know me, I am here to share with you everything I know about selling to big companies. I've been selling to big companies for 16, 17 years now, and I'm passionate about showing everything I know to especially small entrepreneurs and helping small entrepreneurs making big sales, sell to big companies or big clients. And that is what we're doing here. Today, we're going to talk about sales conversation. How do you create that non-pushy sales conversation, but that still has a lot of momentums? I think it's a fine balance. A lot of times we try not to be non-pushy, but we also know that sometimes if we're not pushy, if we don't follow up, then our conversation or our sales relationships are not moving forward. So what do? Do we sound pushy, or do we just let that sales relationship dies? But how do we do that? How do we continue that sales momentum without sounding pushy? There are a few tips that I would love to share with you. So, tip number one, understand your sales journey. And that is so important. Your typical prospects need to go through a journey before they decide to work with you. And you really have to understand every single journey. What do you want out of those journeys? What kind of message you want to give to those prospects? What kind of call to action you want to give to your prospects in every single stage? And also what kind of content, what kind of stuff you could create to encourage your prospects to move forward and to pick their interest, continue getting them engaged. And that is what you should be understanding and breaking down the sales journey. Typically, your prospect would go through 4 stages before they decide to work with you. Stage number one, I call it engagement. Engagement is all about picking your prospect's interests. It's about, hey, let's talk to me. Or it's a little bit like if you're sending cold emails or cold calls, cold emails would be the first subject line, and your focus is to pick their interest and want them to know more. And that is really the sole focus of engagement. Engagement is basically trying to you're interrupting your prospect's day and whatever they're doing, and you're kind of like raising your hand and say, listen to me, and I've got something important for you to say. And that's the first stage. First stage is really engaging and picking your prospects' interest, get them inspired um, to continue hearing what you have to say. And the second stage, once they're inspired, the second stage, I call it awareness. Awareness of who you are, basically know what you are, who's Melinda, what's Melinda doing, or what does she do? And also awareness of the needs. And awareness of the needs is that you're trying to solve a problem for your prospects, but you want to make sure that your prospect is very much aware of how important the pain you're trying to solve. And that's something that people often forget or overlook when they're trying to approach a big prospect. They often try their best to convince their prospect that, I'm the best candidate for this job. But at the same time, you want to make sure that your prospect thinks that, hey, it's important pains to solve. And that should be an important stage, an important thing to keep in mind when you're in an awareness stage, is that you're telling your prospect, I'm helping you solve so and so. If you're a marketing manager, for example, you're telling your prospect that, hey, I want to help you start your Instagram campaign. But you need to make sure that your big prospect recognize that Instagram campaign, it solves a need or solves a pain that is more important than anything else. So awareness is not only awareness of your service, or it's also awareness of the need, awareness that it's very important for them to solve that pain. But once your prospect recognize that, hey, that awareness, I know what Melinda is about, and I also know that I absolutely need to learn how to sell to big companies. Once that awareness is established, then you go to the evaluation. The evaluation is finally more about talking about your service, why you're better than others, what kind of unique solutions you're providing. But that only happens during the evaluation stage. So a lot of entrepreneurs, they start talking about me, my service, my product. Would you like to work with me at the engagement and or awareness stage? But that is slightly too early. I'm going to create a roadmap, sales engagement roadmap for you to download so that you can print it out and keep that in mind when you're prospecting and try to understand what stage you're in when you're prospecting. So I'll create a link, and then don't forget to click on the link and download the sales engagement roadmap so that you know where which stage you're in when you're approaching a big prospect. So the third stage is really that um, evaluation stage. And evaluation stage, it's really important to also understand, what's going on with the objections. Could there be any objections that would stop them from working with you? And that's really also the important stage in the important thing to keep in mind in the evaluation stage. And then the last stage would be asking for the sales. And that is where, after all that, you know that you've properly engaged with your prospect, the prospect has developed the awareness of the need and your service. They've evaluated different options, and you've already overcome the objections and understand that, hey, we've already overcome all the objections. And that is when you ask for the sales. But that sales process and the entire sales engagement process, you need to fully understand it so that every single stage you're not asking sales too early. And at the same time, once you have that stage, that map, once you printed out that map and you have that in mind, you know what to say at every stage of that engagement roadmap. You know what call to action you want to establish at that roadmap. And that brings me to the tip number 2, is having the right call to action. And it kind of ties in with what I just talked about, is understanding that journey. When you're at the engagement stage, the first stage, your call to action is to really ask people to be more aware of their needs. So your call to action would have nothing to do of, would you like to book a meeting with me? Would you like to speak with me over the phone? No, your engagement stage is really to encourage your prospect to keep engaging with you, to develop the habit of opening your emails or clicking likes or downloading your report. So the first stage, it should be creating that behavior to engage with you. So that should be the right call to action. And the second stage, and we're talking about awareness of the need and awareness of your service. And that call to action is to making sure that, hey, they examine their company, they really understand that there is a need for it. And since this awareness stage, you're trying to create awareness of the need, you might be encouraging them to click on the success stories or white papers or case studies that you've created. And that should be the call to action that you really want to create for the second stage. So every single stage has a very unique call to action. And one thing I want to say, and it might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but from my experience, if you really planned your sales engagement roadmap well, you actually will not need to ask for the sales, because the whole process would sound so natural that towards the end, once you've properly led your prospects through that journey, at the end, your prospects will ask you, so what should I do to work with you? What can we do to start working with each other? Or what is the next step? And that really, really is the powerful thing about creating a sales journey and having that very clear understanding and map that out and do the preparation ahead of time. So understand your call to action. It is never just about asking for the sales or asking for the meeting. It really depends on what stage of your sales journey is. And the third thing that you really want to make sure you have to create that non-salesy sales conversation is having your marketing asset ready. What's marketing asset? Today, marketing asset is basically anything, any content, any asset that you should prepare ahead of time to encourage your prospect to work with you. So basically what you're trying to do is that you want to make sure that you have content marketings, blogs, or case studies, or white paper ready before you start approaching your prospects. Because if you want to take your prospect through the sales journey, you need them to get ready, to get used to engaging with you, and eventually, hopefully, decide to work with you. And how do you encourage people to start engaging with you? Is to create certain kind of blogs or content for them to be able to download, or for them to be able to click on, for them to be able to open, and then you will be able to really understand, to really take them through a sales journey. Instead of sending an email to your prospect and then asking for a sales meeting, 30-minute sales meeting right after introducing your company, you should, instead of that, it's a lot more natural and respectful and more effective if you're able to create different kinds of content designed for different sales engagement stage, so that you can use that kind of marketing and lead generation strategies, sales funnel strategies to take your prospect through that journey. And also at the same time, if you have those assets ready, then it will take you a lot less time to sell to different clients. If you are able to plan different assets properly, then you can just simply send out similar case studies or white paper to different prospects and asking them to click on it to engage with you. So having the marketing asset, be prepared for that marketing asset would be a great way for you to engage and to create that non-salesy conversation. The last tip about creating your non-salesy conversation is about measuring your results. I have met a lot of sales pros. I have sold in different industries. Here is the truth. I'm going to tell you, we make wrong assumptions all the time, especially at the beginning of your sales journey. Sometimes there might be a wrong assumption of what your prospects might want. There could be a wrong assumption of the kind of service they're looking for, or a wrong assumption of your price, the pricing of your service. And the only way to make sure that you improve on your mistakes or even correct them before it's too late is constantly measure your results. Earlier, I did a video about what to track for your email campaigns. If you have not watched that video, I would recommend you to go there and watch that video. Video would be a great video for you to know what to track and how to measure results. And I also created, a free tools for email tracking. And that's just kind of a few tools that I really love to use to measure my own results. So if you have not used any tools or apps to track your results, I also encourage you to check that out and start to use different tools to track the results, track the engagement with your prospects. and you would be very, very surprised sometimes with the results. And it's normal sometimes in our mind, and we think that there's an assumption of what our prospects might want, but it might not be true. And that's why you need to track your results. So here are these 4 tips that I really welcome you to think, to build, to start creating, so that to help you create that non-salesy sales conversation. Number 1, understanding your sales journey. Map out your sales journey. Don't forget to download the client sales engagement roadmap. So you can download that, print it out, put it right in front of your desk so you always know which stage you're in when you're speaking with a particular prospect. Okay, so understanding your sales journey. And the second thing is that having the right call to action. Ask yourself, okay, where am I at this journey? What is my next call to action? Where do I want to take my prospects from here? Am I trying to get them from engagement to awareness, or am I just trying to engage with a person? Or am I at the evaluation stage? So have that right call to action. Never ask for the sales before it's too late. And the third is that creating your asset, marketing asset that would tie in with the right call to action, that would tie in with your sales journey. And the last thing is measure your sales results. If you need all the tools, I'll put all the relevant tools here so that you can use those tools to create your own non-salesy sales conversation. That's it. I hope you find this useful. As usual, if you have any questions, if you're thinking about what to do, feel free to send me an email. Email is the best thing to connect with me. And I look forward to sharing more tips with you next time to your big sales success. Talk to you next time.